Page 31, the Old Grey Mare. Looks ugly, don't it? The eighth notes make it look a little interesting, and the accidentals make it look a little interesting. Well, let's just talk about it and see if we can make it a little less interesting, okay? In the left hand, you got mainly chords. One chord, the 5/7 chord, and one chord. We had those before, those aren't the problem. You have 1/8 note in the left hand, and it appears once in each line, and that is melody. So the old bring out the melody thing, that eighth note's got to sound like the rest of the melody. Okay, so you're going to play that eighth note a little louder than you'd be playing the chords, because the chords got to come down because you want to hear the melody, right? So at the beginning it's, and for loudness. All right. I'll get to the rhythm in a minute. Talking about the right hand, just the notes for now, okay? Let's go over to the last two measures of the first line. In the right hand, you have an E, another E, a D sharp, another E, a D natural. You have to put the natural sign there or it'd be another D sharp, right? Because the sharp goes for the middle, okay? And a C. Okay? Then in the last measure, you got to move your hand a little bit, down one note, or down one key on the piano, because you want to use the third finger. That's why it's circled. They're bringing it to your attention. Third finger on the D, then a D, C sharp, D, C natural, and a B. Okay? So you got to work the notes out carefully and slowly. Forget the rhythm for a minute. Just get the notes. First, okay, and then the first measure of the next line, you got to go back up and put your third finger on E again. Now, when you're moving your hand like this in this piece, you're only going up and down one key. You don't actually move the whole hand at one time. You move like the finger you need first, and then you can move the rest of the hand. For instance, in the first line on the last two measures, you're in C position, and you're in C, and you have it D sharp, and you have that, okay? Then when you go to the next measure, just scrunch your hand up a little bit and put the D, the third finger over the D so you can play it. And once you play it, you can let your hand out a little bit. Now when you're done with that measure, you have a B at the end of it. And the next measure, the first measure of the second line, you want a third finger on the E. Well, again, just spread your hand out a little bit, leave your thumb where it is, and just move your third finger over the E. Then once you play the E, then you go back into the 5-finger position. Right? So you can move up and down one key very nicely and easily, and again, you want to get to where you can do it without looking at the keyboard. Now, let's talk about the rhythm. Eighth notes. Remember, in counting eighth notes, I put an and in between each number. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We have a pickup, eighth note. So we're going to start on the and of 4. 4 and, right? So it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and, right? First full measure isn't bad. They're all quarter notes. Then on the last two measures of the first line, the rhythm's the same. You have a quarter note, then some eighth notes, and they're barred according to the beat. You see two eighth notes barred together, that's according to the beat. So you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and the eighth notes are barred that way. So if how badly do I want to confuse you, I guess is the question, because I can make this really interesting. Let's just count it out slowly, putting an and in between each one. You got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and you slowly speed it up until you get it into your, oh, okay, I get it. And it falls. Okay. The next measure is the same rhythm, different notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. First measure of the last line is almost the same, except you've got eighth notes on the last beat too. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 okay? So you can get the eighth notes. And the last line, the third measure over, same rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then the next to the last measure is a different rhythm because there's just 2 eighth notes on the first beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, and the theory says every measure should have 4 counts. Well, the first measure's got a half a count. I need another, what, 3.5 counts somewhere? So what we do look at the last measure. You've got 3.5 counts on there. Now, the dotted half note gets 3 counts, and they put in a half or an eighth rest, which gets a half a count, right? So you got 3.5 counts there and a half count of. Oh, I'm fine. We're good. We got 4 beats everywhere. One more thing, depending on how much you're getting or how much you're struggling, whatever, because you can go through this book multiple times. So if this is the second or third time, maybe you're ready for this too. We'll see. The slurs. We call them phrases. Okay, the phrasing, I should say. You're connecting the notes within a phrase, but you want to separate each phrase with a little bit of silence. So look at the last 2 measures of the first line. The first phrase ends, and then in the last measure, the next phrase starts. And that phrase is only a measure long. But we want a little bit of silence there. So after I play the C, the next to the last measure, the last note, before I play the D, I want a little bit of silence. So bring up on the C a little early, so I get silence before I play the D. That separates the phrases. So the last 2 measures would be. Okay, and again, between the last measure of the first line and the first measure of the second line, I want a little bit of silence, and we're talking right hand here, okay? Because it's a different phrase. Now, the first measure of the second line is interesting because the phrase doesn't go over the whole measure. It goes over part of the measure. So it ends with the C. The G pickup in the left hand, that's a new phrase. So we want a little bit of silence between those 2 eighth notes. So you're going to cut the C short just a little bit so we get silence in there. So it's like you take a breath almost. That adds so much to the music when you can do that. Then the last 2 measures are their own phrase too. So let up on the C before you play those 2 eighth note Ds. With all that said, let's see what else is here. It's a 4/4 time, right? We've had that before. And it's an MF, which means medium loud, and that's the melody now, right? Okay. The rest of it's going to stay softer than that. It says lively. You do lively on your own and do lively after you've learned it. You don't do lively while you're learning it. You go slowly while you're learning it. There'll be plenty of time for lively later. Don't let the ending throw you. That last measure, the dotted half note gets full 3 counts. So you come up on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? I say off, but you can do it however you want. They have the chord names again, and so if there's a guitar player around, have them play along with you. The C and the G7 and all that above it. Yeah, have some fun with it. If you're improvising, you can improvise on those chords. Just play different notes at different times. Just stay within the chord. It's up to you how you do it. If it sounds okay, go with it. It's fine. With all that said, let's try it. I'm going to give us 3.5 counts, and we're going to start. Counting to C, and I'm going to do it like so. 1, 2, ready, and go. And then we'll start right there. It's like ready, and go, and. So your hands are in C position, right? And let's try this out. 1, 2, ready, and go.